CQ, the old friends net. This is N4LQ. November 4, Lima, Quebec, Steve in Shelby, North Carolina. The old friends net is an amplitude modulation only net that meets here every Tuesday and Thursday at 8 a.m. on 3715 and on Sundays at 5 p.m. 3715 kilocycles. It's a good place to look for parts, talk about old vintage equipment, and warm up those bottles and peek the grids and dip the plates. So, N4LQ is listening for check-ins.
Good morning, Steve, WA4LLR.
K4GDN.
WB4ARK.
November 4, Alpha Kilo.
November 4, Oscar Zulu, India.
W4MEC.
W4DCS.
Sometimes I think there's competition for last place. All right, let's see. We've got WA4LLR, K4GDN, WB4ARK, N4AK, N4OZI, and W4MEC, and W4DCS. Any more check-ins? All right, I didn't hear anything. Real quick down the list: LLR, GDN, ARK, AK, OZI, MEC, and DCS. Well, it's only 42 degrees here in Shelby, but it's supposed to get up to 78 somehow. That's going to be quite an increase. Looking forward to it. I'm running the AF67, R390A, and the AL82. One of these days we're going to have a contest to see who's got the most tubes running at the same time. I got a feeling this one might be pretty close, except my transmitter's a little skimpy on tubes. The receiver makes up for it, I guess. Anyhow, good morning, Dave. You're first, WA4LLR, N4LQ.
All right, Steve, good morning. Good to hear everybody. We've got 39 degrees, clear skies. The wind has finally decided it'll take a break. And I'm rejoicing over that. But good to be with you this morning. I'm running the LMAC AF68, receiving on the PMR8, and with a little help from an SB220. So, somewhere close, there we go. Somewhere in the ballpark, 300 watts. Well, 275 looks like. Anyway, we'll go ahead and send it on down to Buddy. WB4ARK, WA4LLR.
Let's go to George.
Oh, I'm sorry, I missed you.
Okay, this is K4GDN. Good morning, everybody. Sunny day here in Myrtle Beach. The temperature's in the upper 40s. Supposed to warm up a little bit, but not quite as much as yesterday, from what I'm hearing. And we're running an AF67 into the PMR7. We get a little bit of help from the Homebrew 811. He's got putting us down, so we're less than 10 watts into the Homebrew linear, feeding the fairly lightly loaded AF67 through about a 6 dB Homebrew attenuator. And we're putting out about 150 watts of focus in Homebrew 811. That seems to be in very good condition. I'm hearing everybody pretty well reported, even you, Glenn. So with that, I'll pass it on to Buddy. WB4ARK in the group, K4GDN.
K4GDN, WB4ARK. Well, I had to put the headphones on, George. I could barely hear you copy your signal. Your volume was pretty low this morning. Clear weather here, and I took a look at the weather temperature, but I don't remember exactly what it was now. That was back at 7 o'clock. It's been too long. We got our SP 600 delivered back to Butch Gibbons yesterday. I finally finished the work on that. Found the culprit was under the RF platform, and that was quite a chore to pull that up and get the component replaced. But we did it, and no damage done, and everything else checked out okay. Charlie, I wonder if you got my email. Let me know what you think, and I will check. If you say go ahead, I'll check and see if the components are available or not. I've got the unit downstairs, and I will check it and see if the parts are there. I haven't had it open in a long time, so I'm not quite sure. So we will send it to N4AK, WB4ARK.
Okay, good morning, buddy, and everybody. This is November 4 Alpha Kilo Sunset. 47 degrees here this morning, pretty mild. Supposed to go to a high of 70, so it'll be a great day for working outside in the yard. No wind today so far. So, George, your signal is a 5.9 here, slow QSB, but your audio is low, so check your audio volume control there and see if that's not a problem. I would think at that signal strength you should be really clear. Copied your Q5, but just low audio. So, Doug, you're blasting into Sunset this morning. All signals are good. It's funny how when the band is good, everybody looks like they're just about 30 over 9 so far. Alan, to you, and your signal is a pipeline as usual. N4 OZI, N4 AK at 100 watts.
Okay, Glenn, N4 AK, and the net is N4 OZI. Thanks for the signal report. We're on the flex in the marathon today. Yeah, nothing vintage. And doing pretty good. It's going to be a nice day, get up to 79, partly cloudy. And I'm going to get the Roundup out here and continue to attack this poison ivy, since it got me a couple of weeks ago. But anyway, that stuff's nasty. I tell you, I've learned to keep a closer eye on that, because if you don't, it's going to get you. And recovering from surgery last week, doing better, and looking forward to a nice day. So I'll keep it going. Over to you, Charlie W4MEC and N4OZI.
Okay, on N4OZI and the group W4MEC. Good morning, everybody, from 40-degree Henderson County. Nice clear skies, I think. Yeah, sun's burning a hole into the shack here. Actually had to close the blinds a little bit. Betty, yeah, I'd still be interested in, if you have those, but I guess a couple options thrown out there now. I won't have to abandon it or go out and make my own or something. So, those simple options. So, but if I stumble across somebody has the right parts, that would be great too. Let's see. Yeah, we finally got out and did some yard work. Of course, the only thing I've been cutting lately is the grass over the drain field. I mean, I can't remember who the woman was that wrote a book years ago called "The Grass is Always Greener Always Over the Septic Tank," and well, that's about what it is with the drain field. And cut that a couple of times, but nothing else. Nothing else was growing. But actually got out and ran out of steam. I started out picking up sticks. I didn't really clean the yard after Helene, and I spent about 2 hours picking up sticks everywhere. Little short ones to fairly good size. I just didn't want to run over them. And by the time I got halfway done with the yard, I said, well, I did put down some mulch too. I said, I'm just too tired. I'm quitting. I'll come back tomorrow. So half done. To be honest with you, I wouldn't be cutting it, but we got a Easter egg hunt scheduled for the weekend coming up for the grands, and I didn't want to have to issue a pith helmet and a machete for them to go out there hunting Easter eggs, so that's how tall it was. So at least they'll be able to walk out there without fear of attack from any strange animals lurking in the bush, I guess. So, over to Doug, W4DCS, W4MEC.
W4MEC in the group. W4DCS, Winston-Salem. All right, Charlie, fine business, and I'm sure the grands will enjoy the Easter egg hunt. They'll have a ball, I'm sure. And, yeah, I'm not sure what we're going to do this weekend. Thinking about going up to the Greenville Ham Fest, but may end up entertaining grandkids. We'll have to see. But yeah, band conditions a little tough for me here today. I did not copy Glenn at all. I'm on the Globe King that used to belong to Glenn. I got it from Richard. So it's still going around through the group, and seems to be working well. So Steve, you're booming in here as usual. Buddy, and Charlie, great copy on you too. It's just I got some local noise, and I think the band conditions aren't the best, but glad to be in here, and that's the story. N4LQ, W4DCS.
All right, Doug, W4DCS, N4LQ. Anybody else want to join us? Nothing heard. All right, well, I don't know. Everybody's coming in here okay. No noise, no nothing, just nice AM signals. I would say Georgia's modulation is not quite up to snuff, and I don't know if it's just weak or it sounded like I just had trouble hearing it. S-meter looked okay. So, no, George. That's a AF67, I think you said, which is what I'm running here. Matter of fact, somebody else. Oh, yeah. So we got 3 LMACs on this morning. Dave, AF68, George, and me on the AF67. That's pretty cool. All right, and Glenn, good luck on the yard work today. I know the snakes are out. I ran across one right in the middle of the backyard yesterday. Big garter snake. He wasn't any problem. I just gave him a little tap on the tail, and he took off over into the ivy. I don't worry about those too much. It's those doggone copperheads that you got to watch out for, and I'm always worried about them and the dogs. But I actually just about stepped on that garter snake. He was about 2 feet long. He was a granddaddy. And Alan, okay on the poison ivy. It's going to take an ocean of calamine lotion. Remember that song. Let's see here. Not a whole lot going on. I'm still working on the shop downstairs, trying to get stuff moved down there. One of these days, maybe Sunday, I'll be able to put a station on the air down there in the lower level. So let's see here. I think that's about all I've got from here. And glad the wind has calmed down there, Dave. And tell us what's in the news today. WA4LLR, N4LQ.
Okay. N4LQ. And the old friends, WA4LLR. Well, good copy on everybody. George, I apologize for not hearing you when you checked in. My phone rang about the moment I let up on the mic for my check-in, and I missed a lot of stuff. So, after I cranked the volume up a little, I was able to copy you. Yeah, that's interesting. The first 3 check-ins are LMAX. Let's see, buddy. Good deal on getting the SP600 repaired and back to Butch. And Glenn, the 100 watts doing a good job for you. And Alan, the flex is sounding good, and glad you're recovering from the procedure. Charlie's going to cut down the jungle for the Easter egg hunt. And Doug, the Globe King, is wall to wall. I particularly enjoyed you yelling at the dog a little earlier. Oh, man. But anyway, yeah, the wind is pretty calm. I went out to let the dog do his thing, and it's pretty nice out there, even though it was 39 degrees. Let's see what all's going on. Well, let's see. We had a couple of CME impacts. We had one day before yesterday and one yesterday evening. In fact, just before I headed to church, I got a notification on the phone that the K-index had gone to 8, which is, a severe geomagnetic storm. So I had my fingers crossed that when it got dark, we'd see some aurora. But by the time I got back, it had calmed back down to a K of about, I don't remember, 6, somewhere in there. So we didn't get to see any lights in the sky here last night. Currently, space weather sunspot count 70. Solar flux index is 148, and the K is down to 2. So the band is nice and quiet this morning. A few items from this day in history. On this day in 1907, Ellis Island had the busiest day in history, processing 11,747 immigrants. But the daily average is 5,000, so they were busy. On this day in 1790, Benjamin Franklin passed away at age 84. On this day in 1941, Yugoslavia surrendered to the Nazis. On this day in 1945, the Americans seized 1,100 pounds of uranium in Strasbourg, Germany, to try to prevent the Soviet Union from developing the A-bomb. On this day in 1961, Castro repelled the Bay of Pigs invasion, funded by the CIA. On this day in 1964, the Ford Mustang debuted at the World's Fair. On this day in 2002, for all you soap opera fans, General Hospital aired its 10,000th episode. Lord help us. And the big news, of course, for this day in history was in 1970 when the Apollo 13 command module splashed back down after a thrilling 4 days of trying to deal with the results of exploding oxygen canister. So that's what's happening on this day in history. George, here it comes. K4GDN, WA4LLR.
WA4LLR, the group K4GDN. I turned the modulation up a little bit. It did look a little bit weak. I've been moving some stuff around here in the shack. And the AF6 determined bird. Anyway, it's good to hear all the Mobile back. Everybody's coming in with pretty good. There is some QSC I'm getting, but I'm copying everybody pretty much 100%, even the weaker stations. And I'm doing some rearranging here in the shack, and I'm looking to part ways with a couple of handband only receivers. I may have mentioned this before. I've got an NC300. This is one with Bluetooth phone code that I would like to work with. Also, I've got an HQ 110A 70A, both of which all three of which I'd like to start a new home for. Ford got the BMW, and apparently it's, I'm not sure he's had it on the air yet, but he's got it and it was running. I've got to make some room for my helicopter station once I get it up and running. I'm working on the SX100 now, and we'll be starting on the HD32A when I get the 100 on position. So like I say, I've got to make some room. The HD32 is a little bit on the big side. Anyway, that's what's going on down here. So, buddy, it's coming to you.
K4GD and WB4ARK. Okay, George, you were a little bit better that time. Well, Charlie, I will check and see if those components are available. It doesn't belong to me, so I will check with the owner and see if they're willing to let them go out of the unit. See why not. It's not much of a unit, actually. Just the RF section. And I don't think you're probably going to find any floating around unless someone has partied out a KWS-1. That would be a very difficult part to find. I've got some sockets, but don't have any of the connectors. The band conditions have been pretty rough here in the last 3 days or so. Had done the alignment on the SP600, and I had done it several times. So the unit hadn't been working for a while, so I wanted to give it a chance to settle down. And I noticed WWV wasn't coming in on 5, 10, 15, or 20. I think there might have been just a bare whisper of sound on 15. But yesterday it was a very good signal on 10, and 15 was pretty good. So the band was up at one point, and actually the night before that too. So anyway, we got that done. I've got to figure out, I know what to do. I just need to get in there and do it. The VAT system on our 98 Lumina is acting up, and if those who haven't had a Chevrolet in the years, I guess maybe 92 to 2005 at least, I know my 2004 has it. They have a resistor element in the key, and it detects that and allows the car to start. And if it's not there, then, or if it makes poor contact, then you got to wait 3 minutes, and then you can try it again. But so mine is acting up, and I've got to get that bypassed. So I know what to do. I just need to get in and do it. But I think mine is like 2,400 ohms, something like that. I'll have to look. I'll have to check and see. I wrote it down in the manual some years ago. But that's what we got going on today, so we'll tackle that after we get through with the net here, get that problem solved. so we can have smooth driving. So over to Glenn, N4AK, WB4ARK.
Okay, buddy, WB4ARK and the group, N4AK. Well, when you're talking about all this troubleshooting, buddy, I'm reminded again about the night that we spent in the basement of Charlotte Memorial Hospital working on a Viamani Hobbs. I think you finally found the problem about 7:30 and they had a CAD scheduled for 8. So, I don't know. Those are some kind of rough days as we were beginning. Yesterday, I found an old battery charger down near one of my sheds, and it had been left out, and I took it back and cleared out all the dirt daubers and all the little holes and squirted some deoxit on all the parts, and it came back to life. So that's what I did yesterday. And then I cleaned up my workbench, which hadn't been cleaned up in about 6 months. So, you know, as you get a little tool here or there, you have to walk back over to where you put everything up. So there's a lot of walking between your workbench and your little cubicles where you store the parts and the tools. So that was afternoon yesterday. And Doug, I worked a fella in Winston-Salem the other day. He does South cars. His name is Steve, KD4IW. I don't know if you've ever heard of him. And Dave, you mentioned the 1964 Mustang. It was at the World's Fair, and about a month earlier they had delivered one to San Antonio, Texas. And I traded in a 1963 Chevrolet Sportster for a Mustang, and I drove it to Gainesville, Georgia, picked up my XYL and straight on to Brooklyn Army Terminal in New York. Put that Mustang on the U.S. Navy ship Rose as they took me over to Germany. And I was had the first Mustang in Europe. And a doctor offered to swap me the Mustang even for a Mercedes Sportster. I'd never heard of the word Mercedes in my life, so I said no thank you. N4OZI, N4AK.
Yeah, okay, Glenn. N4AK in the group, N4OZI. Yeah, it was about 2004 or 2005. I had to go to Europe to do an acceptance testing on a radio system in Vienna, Austria, and I was there about a week. And it was funny. I was there, working during the day, and then at night it was in the summer, so sun didn't set till very late. So under the interstate, there was a walkway under the Autobahn, really, over to this mall, and there was a McDonald's at this mall in Vienna, outside of Vienna, and as I was walking over there to it, I noticed that there was a lot of American cars and a bunch of people gathered around. I suspect that it was some of the cars that were shipped over to Europe and for the soldiers and stuff, and it was quite funny walking around looking at the American cars there in Vienna, Austria, and that McDonald's parking lot. I never will forget that. That was really wild. I had talked to a couple people when they realized I was an American. They were asking me questions about cars, and I was like, "Oh yeah, that's a real good car there," and stuff. I had no idea, but I just told them. I said, "Yeah, you got a great looking car. That's really good." But man, they had quite a collection. It was really unusual because I remember walking up and seeing that, thinking, "What in the world?" and you just never know. But yep, all those American-made cars there are probably sought after in Europe. They really are. Anyway, I'm going to make this one my last one, and we'll talk to you guys later. I'll send it over to you, Charlie. W4MEC, N4OZI.
Okay, Alan, N4OZI in the group, W4MEC. Okay, fellas. Real good round there. Yeah, George was a little light on the audio. I don't know if it's audio or signal, but sometimes he can change just from check-in to the time he gets his turn to talk, so. Well, I had an interesting story. A friend of mine many years ago, because Glenn mentioned Mercedes. He wanted to buy probably the same car that was offered to you, Glenn, a Mercedes, and I forgot the name. I used to know the number, but it was their sports car, a two-seat convertible, had a solid roof that you took off like a Corvette, you know, or it didn't have a rag top, and the car was $10,000, and this was 1971, somewhere in there, 1970, 71. And the Navy Credit Union would not give him the loan money to buy this car, and he actually had to go to the credit union and make his point, and ended up being the very first car loan for that amount of money ever by the credit union. But that was in Jacksonville, so I don't know if it was nationwide, but in Jacksonville it was the largest amount of money loaned for a car ever, so 10 grand. And he kept that thing for quite a few years, but he was a big Mercedes fella, and they always had these seeking radios, auto-tune radios, and I ended up working on those because they would quit, auto-tune would quit, and they had some German transistor in them, but a 2N2222 replaced it just fine, so. And Corvettes had the same radio too. I guess, I don't know, Blaupunk made those, I think, but anyway, so after that car, he actually didn't like it, and he sold it. He sold it for more than what he bought it. By the time he sold it, it had gone up in value. But he ended up with a bunch of the was it 190 diesels, four-door sedans. And he really liked those. He had a couple of those, and that was a nice riding vehicle. And his wife one time was run off the road in Jacksonville, and she lost it and went up on a guardrail and was sliding down the guardrail and stopped, and they got a wrecker and took her off the guardrail, checked the car, absolutely nothing wrong with it, a little scraped on the bottom, but she started the car and drove home. So at one time they made some pretty tough vehicles. I don't know how they are today, but anyway, over to Doug, W4DCS, W4MEC.
Okay, Charlie. Yeah, some noise coming out of something here. Yeah, I got a hummer going on. Sorry about that, guys. But yeah, and the hollering at the dog. I apologize for that. That uncalled for. This setup here, I haven't put a, it's like, it's across the other side of the room, where I've got the Globe King set up, and I haven't put in a switch with a dummy load, and yeah, Riley gets a little crazy. He's a ballaholic like a lot of the Jack Russells, and if it goes under the coffee table that's in here, he thinks it's okay to destroy the table. So the ball was under there, and he was chomping away at the lower level of the table, which he's done quite a bit of damage on. Of course, it's down in the shack here, so it's not valuable stuff. But yeah, he's a real challenge. But anyways, Glenn, I didn't have a great copy. I heard you say you were in Winston-Salem. I didn't get the call sign of the fella that you mentioned, but listen, any of you guys ever in Winston-Salem, give me a call, look me up. I'd love to hook up with you. And I'm going to get down to Spartanburg one of these months for the lunch. It's just quite a haul, 4 or 5 hour round trip for me. So definitely not a boycott. I'd love to get down there and get an eyeball on all you guys. So I think I've met a lot of you at Hamfests and such, but would like to get down there. Anyways, I'll make this my 73. Steve, thanks for calling. A huge signal as usual. And we appreciate you, buddy. N4LQ, W4DCS.
Okay, do we have any super late stations that'd like to join us? Heard somebody throwing a carrier just above us there that was pretty strong. Now, Doug, you're extremely loud here. I mean, of course the carrier is like, normal, but the audio is just blasting me out of the shack. It's it must be a little more than 150% or something. I don't know. It's just loud, and that's good. So you're doing great. Okay, let's see here. I had a few things that I noted. The band conditions yesterday were a topic, and I was trying to listen to some AM yesterday on the upper end of 40, and it was just all really, really weak. And but later on that evening it came up, and there was a bunch of guys on 40 AM, about 72, 85 to 95 in that area. I heard 2 or 3 stations at one time there for a while. I'm going to try to get on here maybe today, and we're entering into that weekend time when there's no old friends net during the morning, and I kind of miss that. So get on there and see if I can stir up a QSO or something. And Buddy, real fine on the resistor key. I remember that. I had some car that had that feature on it, and I kind of wondered about it. I think maybe there was more than other manufacturers were doing that. Maybe Ford. I wondered if you sprayed some WD-40 in the key slot or something, if it would make better contact. I don't know. So I guess what you did was put a resistor across the whatever it is, the points inside there that make the contact, and that sounds like a pretty good idea. And Glenn, got your workbench all cleaned up. I got mine cleaned up about 2 weeks ago in the basement for the first time in 5 years. And I was working in piles of stuff, and layers and piles, and it's just a horrible mess. So I started cleaning up, and now it just looks kind of empty, but that's the way it ought to be. And the 64 and a half Mustang, I remember that looking at a used one in 1966 on a used car lot, and it was just a little more money than I could come up with. I think it was like maybe 12 or 1500 bucks, and it had a vinyl roof, and a lot of those did back in those days. And I remember it had a 260 V8, and then about a year later I found me a 65 convertible Mustang, stick shift 289, and had a 4-barrel Ford carburetor on it, and the carburetor had it was staged so that you push the accelerator down to a certain point and it kicked in the other 2 barrels. And man, when those barrels kicked in, it was like going into passing gear in an automatic or something. But I really did enjoy that car. Anyhow, well, let's say 73s to Doug and Alan, and we'll go one more round and then call it quits for the day. And I think George said he still had a NC300 and an HQ110 he wanted to sell, a little bit of QSB there, but I think that's what I heard. So back to you, Dave, for your final round. WA4LLR, N4LQ.
Okay, Steve, N4LQ, WA4LLR. All right, real good. And Glenn, congratulations for being the man that introduced Europe to the Mustang. And Charlie, I had to chuckle when you were talking about the credit union balking at a $10,000 loan for a car, and that being the most money they ever loaned for a car. Thinking about that today, that you wouldn't get much of a car for that, not a new one anyway. But I did a little research, and $10,000 in 1964 would be worth $102,000 in today's dollars. So yeah, I can see why they balked a little bit. Oh me. Anyway, not much more here. I enjoyed it this morning, Steve. Thanks for calling it. I'll say 7-3. God bless. Hope everybody has a wonderful Easter weekend, and let's remember the reason for this time, and rejoice in the fact that we have a Savior, and His name's Jesus. So, George, if you're copying, over to you, buddy. K4GDN, WA4LLR 73.
WA4LLR, the group, K4GDN. Yeah, we'll copy everybody fairly well. The band must seem to be falling off a little bit. And as far as the receivers concerned, Steve, I do have the NC300, an HQ110A, and an HQ170A that I would like to start with. So anyway, that's what the situation is. And Steve, thanks for calling us up. And as you mentioned, Dave, let's remember why we are having Easter. And over to you, buddy. WB4ARK in the group, K4GDN. 73, guys.
K4GDN, WB4ARK. Well, that was the worst transmission that you produced today, George. You are off frequency or something, and boy, the volume was very low. I don't know if you've got a problem going on or what, but Glenn, that was interesting. You remembered that specific moment of that time, and because it has slipped my memory. I do not remember that incident. I remember many other ones, but not that one. That was a very good comment there on that Hobbs injector. That I don't remember exactly what that was about. Anyhow, I know that it's quite interesting how we can remember specific incidences that have happened over time, and there are a number of incidences that come to mind that I remember, but there are incidences that I don't remember that I've been reminded of, but not some good ones sometimes. One of the times it was probably 1962 or 3 possibly. I came home, and my uncle from the eastern part of the state down in Salemburg, he had retired. He worked in the Panama Canal Zone. He was the captain of a dredge, and so when he retired, he came back to his home place in Salemburg, North Carolina, and he had come up to Charlotte for some reason to visit my parents, he and his wife, and I don't know what precipitated this incident, but he had his car taken apart in the back of our house. There's a concrete area back there, and he was using my tools. I had quite a tool arrangement, Snap-on and Mac, and he was into taking the head off of his diesel engine. And I said, what are you doing? He says, well, we're replacing the head gasket on the engine. So he was a pretty good mechanic, but he had a nice diesel with a bad head gasket, so he changed it out. He wanted to know if I had a torque wrench, and I said, no, I don't have one of those, but we can probably borrow one. So he got his head put on and went on back to Salemburg. Let's see what else we got here. Well, I don't think that the workbench issue with all of the stuff piled up on it, that happens to me, and I wonder if anybody else ever had that problem, and I'm glad to hear that it does go around. I have to stop every once in a while, pick up all the tools, put them where they're supposed to be, and clean off my workbench. So that's, I guess that's a chore that everybody has to go through once in a while. So we'll say 73. Everybody have a good upcoming weekend. And over to Glenn, N4AK, WB4O. And thanks for calling the net, Steve. N4AK, WB4ARK.
Well, buddy, just keep your hand on the switch and see if I can jog your memory. Does Charlotte Roach bring back a memory?
Oh, yes, that's definitely a memory.
Okay, fellas, y'all can just cogitate on that one for a while. All right, and Alan had a nice trip to Vienna, Austria, and I'm glad he's recovering from his surgery. And in '64, when I was in Germany, believe it or not, you still couldn't trust the water in Germany from the taps. It was, you always had to drink something, and of course beer was it. And Charlie, the word Blaupunkt brings back a lot of memories. And Philips made some car radios that actually had short wave on them. I don't know how well they perform, tell you the truth, but I remember seeing them. And in Europe, the 190 diesels were the taxis all over Europe. That's what they used, the 190 diesel Mercedes. And part two of the Mustang story is when I got taking the Mustang off the ship, they almost didn't let me introduce it in Germany because there was a truck called a Mustang. So they put out the word, no more Mustangs in Europe. So Ford got around that by labeling the ones for the PXs over there what they call the T5. So if you ever saw a Ford Mustang that wasn't a Mustang but had a T5 on the side, that was shipped to some soldier in Europe. Okay, enjoyed it this morning, fellas. There was some good stories going around. And Steve, thanks for doing the net for us. W4MEC and 4AK.
Okay, I think Alan left, right?
Yes, did.
I'm sorry I missed that. Yeah, N4AK, W4MEC. Well, a couple of things here. I forgot on the last go-round. I'm working a cluttered workbench. Well, I fix stuff on top of stuff. I've been working on this TCS for my buddy in Warner Robins, and it's a nice big flat surface on the top, you know, the chassis and everything. So if I got something else to fix, I'll just put it on top of that and start working on it on top of that. So I think I've had as many as 3 things stacked up on top of each other, and And, simple problem is to fix, why clean off the bench, why move all this junk when I can fix this real quick kind of deal. So I wonder if Buddy and Glenn, you read the stuff about this CAT scan and the increase in cancer. I was reading that story. I don't know if it was a sensationalized story or has any truth to it, but they say there's a pretty good risk of increasing your odds of cancers. And the first thing I thought of was a couple things. The pill, when they first issued it, the hormones in it were just too much, and it took them a while to figure out they didn't need hardly any to make the pill work. And the other one was ultrasound. Ultrasound power was way more than they needed, and they would see it when they were doing the scan. The baby inside would jerk and stuff like that from the sound, and they lowered the power on that quite a while before they figured out they just needed just a fraction of the signal to make the ultrasound work. I was curious as to whether if that's the issue with the CAT scan. There's just too much RF in the system there, but I wondered about that. And I got a 64.5 Mustang story about my wife, because she was a faculty kid at Palm Beach Private School. And back in the 60s, and this was an era when, believe it or not, black people and those of Jewish descent were not allowed to live on the island, on Palm Beach. That changed not too long after that. But it was normal to see the buses coming from West Palm, where she lived, which was where the working people lived, and they would be going in the island this morning loaded with African American maids, black maids going to work on the island. And but anyway, it was an interesting time because you could gain access to the beach from just about anybody's estate. There was always ways to get to the beach. You could go along the beach from one end to the other. Of course, Mar-a-Lago was still there, and you could go. Right now, you can't use the main drag. They got it closed off because the main drag goes right to the middle of Mar-a-Lago, and which goes from the intercoastal to the ocean, and you can't go down the ocean either because it's locked out. But anyway, that's the level of wealth on there, and she had a couple of good friends in that school, and a lot of them were aloof, but she had a couple of good ones, and one of them was a girl that had a 64.5 Mustang, and she was visiting her up in Highlands in North Carolina. And my wife was, and she was sent out to go get something in the car, and she was driving back on a mountain road up there, and a log truck was coming up a hill. And they're not going to stop. Once you got a truck full of logs, you don't stop. You just keep going, and you put it out on the highway, because if you stop, you'll never get going again. And he pulled out in front of her, and she jerked out of the way, and she ended up launching that car off the side of the ridge and into a couple of trees, and the point where she was like jammed between the two trees. So she wasn't hurt that bad. I think she was knocked out or something, but they came in, they had to get her out of there, get the car out of the trees, and because she went off the ridge down the slope, and but they weren't, the owners were nonplussed about it, I think her name was Vicky, and what was her last name? Anyway, it's some, Bill Gates level person in the era, right? But they were nonplussed about it, and that was her second car. She had a I can't remember that Ford porthole windows on the T-Bird. Yeah, she had an Aqua T-Bird with porthole windows on the roof. That was her previous car. So these people were the Bill Gates of the era, like the Bobby Brookses, from the clothing, Russ Winlock, the Russells, and all these different people with lots of cash. But so she got to drive that and stick it between two trees. But like I say, there was water off the back to them because they had more money than God at the time. So who knows where they are today. So, all right, I think if Doug is not there, I'm not sure. Yeah, he had a pretty buzzy, whistly signal there. So, yeah. So, and anyway, so I guess 73 if we're not going to do a 73 now. Well, actually, and Doug, you're still there, W4DCS, W4MEC.
Yeah, he checked out too, Charlie. So you're the last, and that will be about it for the old friends net. And that was interesting, especially about that T5 Mustang. I wonder if that's worth a lot of money these days, or if it's just a novelty. But it'd be cool to see one of those, Glenn. And I did read about the CAT scan and the cancer. I think they said 5% of cancers are caused by CAT scans or something like that. So I think I'd try to minimize getting those things. Boy, that's something else. And I guess MRIs, they apparently don't do that to you. It's not really, I guess it's not really radiation in the same form. Anyway, I don't know anything about it. That's about it, guys. Thanks for checking in, and we'll say 73s. And this is N4LQ closing the old friends net.